guys, you're welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, I say welcome to this family, and if you have been here before, you are welcome back once again. So in this tutorial, I am going to be teaching you how to cut this gown that you are seeing on the screen. Firstly, these are the things that you are going to be needing for this tutorial. You need your marker, your scissors, your paper tape, and then your tape measurement. So we are going to get into it, and of course your pattern paper. The first thing you need to do is to get your starting line. This starting line is for you to have a guide, not cutting directly on the starting line edge of the paper. Okay, so after doing that, I am going to be going ahead to mark all my measurements. Okay, so I'm going to be marking all my measurements, the heights of my body. So from that starting line, I'm going to mark my bust point. I'm going to locate my waistline and then the hip line. Everything in place. After getting all the points ready, of course the length of my gown, I am going to be getting my armhole line. Your armhole line, you can get it by stepping up 2 inches from your bust point. That will work. So I am going to be working with 8 inches here. I'm going to be working with 8 inches. My armhole is 7 inches plus 1 inch for shoulder slope. I have 8 inches. So this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be extending the line. Then I'll go to my neck area and get the type of neckline that I want. If you look at the style very well, it has turtleneck. Okay, so after marking my shoulder divided by 2, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to mark down and check if my armhole length is correct. Then on that armhole line, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2 just to have a straight line, okay, when connecting back to the shoulder slope. So I'm going to connect it downward. Okay, so after doing this, the next thing for us to do is to place our body circumference. So on my armhole line, I'm going to be measuring my bust divided by 4, and then I'm going to go to my bust point, and I'm going to do the same. On my waistline, I'm going to divide my waist measurement by 4, and I'm going to place whatever I have there as well. The same thing goes to all my round bodies, which my hip is not excluded. I'm going to go to my hip and I'm going to divide my hip by 4, then add allowance. But firstly, let us divide all my bodies by 4. Now I'm going to go to my armhole and then get the midpoint just to create my front armhole. Then on the midpoint, okay, I'm going to go in by half an inch. I'm going to go in by half an inch to create my curve. I'm going to be making use of my curve ruler. Like you see me doing, I'm creating my armhole curve. Life is easy with your curve ruler. Then I'll go to my neck area. The normal neckline is 3 by 3 standard, but I won't be using that. I'm going to be using 3 inches for wideness and 2.5 for the depth. Why? Because I'm creating a turtleneck. I love that 3 inches width because it gave me a kind of comfort. So that is that. I'm going to connect the curve, and then I'm going to connect my shoulder slope. Always make sure that you connect your shoulder slope, which is just 1 inch. The next thing is to go to the down part of my gown. This particular style is not a fitted style on the hem. So on the hem, I'm going to divide my hip by 4. I will mark whatever it is that I have there, and I'm going to add excess 5 inches allowance. It all depends on you. You could add 2 inches, 3 inches, depending on the number of fabric that you have available. So I'm going to be using 5 inches extra because I want it to be a bit free. Then I'm going to add my stitching allowance and connect it all straight down like you see me doing here. Okay, After doing this, I'm going to move my pattern paper and I'm going to go to my bust area. I'm going to add my stitching allowance. Always cross check if you have the correct measurement. So my bust divided by 4 is correct. I added my sewing allowance of 1 inch. Adding 1 inch is not standard. You could add more than that, but for ease and perfect sight, I prefer 1 inch, except if a client asks for more. Okay, so this is it. That waistline, I'm going to make it curvy so that it won't be sharp. And then the hip area, I'll also go there and blend it. I'm going to blend the hip area to avoid any bulginess. Okay, so I'm done with all the shaping like this. This is the front pattern. The next thing to do is to label my pattern. Always label your pattern, then cut it out. So while cutting, I'm going to cut the shoulder slope, the neckline, and that's it. And don't forget to add your hemming allowance to it. So I'm going to be placing this pattern on the fabric and I'm going to be cutting both front and the back. So this is the fabric I'm going to be using. Here I've placed the fabric on the paper on the fabric. Now the fabric is folded in such a way that the stretchy part is on my body circumference. Okay, so that it can, that's the best way to cut your stretchy fabrics anyways. The stretch part should be on your body circumference, and then I'm going to cut all around. And mind you, when you're cutting the neck area, add your allowance on the shoulder, add your allowance all through. So you might be asking me that why didn't I remove zip bulge and all and the rest? No, because I'm not going to add zip to this cloth anyways. I am just having that zipper allowance because of the turtleneck, because I'm going to be having a kind of opening at the back eventually. And then for demarcation, when I want to shape my bodies, so here I'm going to connect my back neckline. I'm using the same 3 inches width, and then the depth of my back neckline, I make use of 1 inch. So I'm going to connect it like so, and then I'll cut it out, cutting on the same side, the same shoulder, and then I'm going to slit the back. Make sure you slit the zipper area before cutting the side so that it won't be short. Okay, and that is that about that. When I want to sew, I'm going to be trimming the down part. I'm going to be creating my curve when I am done sewing the bodies. Good, so I have all my bodies all cut out. Make sure to always mark the wrong side of your fabric, because there are some fabric that they look very much alike. Okay, so yeah, you're going to rule out your zipper allowance since the cloth does not have lining, so you should just rule out your zipper allowance and then kick start your sewing. I'm going to cross check my armhole so that I can cut my sleeve. The first thing first, like I used to say, is your starting line, and then from there mark the length of your sleeve. And when you are folding for your sleeve, make sure that your sleeve folding can accommodate at least half of your armhole plus extra 1 inch. Okay, that will give you a free movement on your armhole. So get the length of the sleeve. I'm working with length 24 plus 1 inch allowance. So I'm going to create my armhole curve. The standard is coming down by your cap height, which is either 5 inches or 3.5, depending on you. But I work with 3.5 in this case because the style does not have puff, so I prefer 3.5. And here I measure what I have on my armhole, and I can see that it's okay for me. Then you're going to come down by 2 inches from that sleeve edge and then mark your round sleeve. The round sleeve I'm working with here is 6 inches. It's 12 inches divided by 2 gives me 6 inches. So I'm going to mark the 6 inches and I'm going to add my 1 inch stitching allowance. Just the same allowance that I added to my bodies. Then I'll connect it in a curvy way like so. Okay. So to get that your elbow point, from that curve area, like the under the armpit, you are going to mark down the midpoint of that angle. That is how I get my elbow line, and it has been helpful. So getting that line, on that line you're going to divide your round elbow by 2. So the round elbow that I'm working with is 11 inches, divided by 2 is 5.5. So I'm going to be marking 5.5. This fabric is stretchy but not very stretchy, so I use exactly my measurements. But in case your own is too stretchy, you can remove like 1 inch from the regular measurement. Okay, then the down part of my sleeve, there's a kind of wave on the other part of the sleeve, so I'm just going to mark whatever I have on my elbow right down there. Okay, so I'm going to connect my sleeve, and I'm going to blend in the curve of the underarm because it's not straight. So we are almost done with our sleeve. Good. So I'm done cutting the sleeve. The next thing is to fold and cut the second one. Now I want to cut that flap thing in front. I don't know the name actually, but I call it like pocket cover. I'm going to cut the length that I want the two to be, which is, I use 10 inches, and I go ahead to divide it into 2, having 5 inches on both sides. So 5 inches here, 5 inches here, and I later added half an inch stitching allowance to both. Then I get the length. I make use of the same thing for the length, but the length was cut on fold. Okay, so I divided both into 2. Initially I measured 7 inches for each, so I noticed that it is too wide, so I decided to use 5 inches by 5 inches. So I added half an inch sewing allowance, so I ended up cutting on 11 inches, which is 5 inches for both sides. So I am going to go ahead and cut it out. Mind you, when you are cutting this pocket cover, you need to make sure that one of the sides is on fold, that is on the length is on fold. That will be the down part of it, and then the other upper edge, I don't know if you understand, which is the length, is going to be used to turn it over. So the other 2 sides, you are going to stitch it by 1/4 of an inch, just to sew it inward. Okay, so we are almost done cutting it. So this is it, and it's all looking perfect already. So guys, you have come to the end of cutting the necessary part of this dress. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to cut the turtleneck and how to join the bodies. It's just the basic way of joining our body. If this video is helpful, please give me a thumbs up and also like, and also please subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified when I drop new video. Bye bye.